No video, no video, no video, no audio, nothing with Bluetooth, FPS showing how shall nothing shall happen. It will on the record, I'm sure. It's around 1 minute, but nothing is happening. Only 2 FPS now. Some signals have gone again. 2 FPS. What does it mean? I don't know what's happening in here, India. Airtel, sorry. Really, I don't know what to do with this. There's no choice, no option. Well, good morning, everybody. This is Engineer Suraj Singh speaking from Bharat, India on this November 27, 2021, Saturday. It's now 4:25 a.m. and last video just broke back few minutes. It broke again after 20 minutes, and I was just talking about Airtel, and immediately it broke. It happens. Well, dear friends, it's beyond my control. Sometimes videos continue and recording continues and it goes up to 3 hours, 2 hours. Likewise, in past it used to be up to 4 hours, 5 hours. And I did my work in continuation, but nowadays maybe reason is that they have overload. They have thrived business, but performance of service is very poor, I can say. I have written many mails to them. They talk also, they respond, but they don't resolve problems. It's beyond our capacity to get some system ourselves or satellite ourselves. It's not possible. So we can say we are at option of these companies, these service providers, and it is really pathetic. Despite paying money, their service charges, you are not delivered quality service. Even during morning time, it's early morning, people are sleeping. There must not be overload onto them, but it's happening. And that is also one reason that I am very much inclined to talk of quality, because this is also a part of quality which is not working. Certificates everybody has, all companies have, but quality nobody is interested in. But operations are absent, and that is really very, very bad. It's no use, there's no limit to criticize someone. But when we talk, when we consider some issue, we have to criticize, because making criticism or criticizing someone is a part of development. It's not personal or private criticism, it is professional criticism. And everybody has right or professional criticism in interest of profession. If I criticize someone, or I can criticize myself also, no, because everybody has some problems, has some defects. Like in my personality there may be some defects, in your personality you may have some defects, or you can call them snags or punch. We have to improve. There's something not available or something is missing which should be there. We have to find that and include with that requirement. That is what we say. We have to do it. But if despite knowing that we do not do it, now Airtel knows, or maybe other service providers, they have same problems. They know what are. I have no option either to go to this service provider or to go to someone else. But both are same. It's just like we say in politics, either this PM or other one. But who is other one? Means they know weakness of people, and that's why they dominate. And this where quality is a question mark. Quality in nowadays everywhere is a question mark in politics. I am just bringing in politics because politics relates to everybody all over the world. There was quality in politics one time, but now politics is also a business. It's very important for politicians to stay in power everywhere. Particularly, I'm referring in this talk because ultimately quality comes from top. Politicians all over the world, I think they are like unions. Practically, they are not unions, but you talk to whosoever politician, their first consideration is how to keep in, how to survive, because they cannot apply for any jobs, they cannot do anything except to stay in power. And what method is there? How to stay in power is sole requirement of every politician. And they also know that common public has no reach to politics. Only those who have experience in politicians and who are in political parties, who are members in political parties or who are families of politicians, only those people can come up. And it's everywhere, everywhere. Politics has become a profession or occupation, or you can say it's a robbing profession, I call it. Politics is very big service, very reasonable, very important, very significant service. But who does it? Who considers it as service? It is politics that problems happen all over the world. What's happening in Libya? What has happened in Syria? What has happened elsewhere in the world? You can say it is politics that plays with people. And politicians are instruments. And they are, operators. You can say, we say this is a plant operator, this is authority of operating. They are responsible for this facilities plant. So I can say politicians around the world have got that status that they are operators. They are not servants. They call themselves servants, but they are not servants. They think they are rulers. And some claim that I'll stay in this post for about 5 decades, for 10 decades, as if this post has been purchased by that person. Really shameful. What should I say? Engineers who are not politicians, but they have become slaves to politicians, particularly in our country. Engineer who has to serve people, who has to serve engineering, who have to do development. And that is what engineering is. They have to understand economy, they have to understand system, they have to understand designs, they have to understand quality, they have to understand how to do better work, and they have to understand how to serve public. But all these points have been thrown away, have been thrashed, and there is only one point left, particularly in government sectors and those sectors who support government. Even the private companies, they support government because of their survival. Generally, all companies, all organizations support some party, and particularly those who are in power. So you can say, if some company supports such a political party or government, certainly it's for its own benefits, foreign out supports from that government in exchange of that own support. So how can you think that that organization which is pro-political, they can serve people? Though it is quality certified company, you can say they have certifications of system, but those systems never work. And if those systems never work, they think of nothing but to survive. And engineers also later on think, because we have no solution, we are bound by this and bound by that. In that case, we have also to flow in same direction of stream. We cannot go oppose what is happening. And when pressure is built up on them to do project expeditiously, they do it, and they don't care for that. I have I had opportunities to talk to many our young and middle class engineers, middle engineers, senior engineers, and they never talk frankly. If you raise some question to them about these issues, they try to avoid discussion. If you talk to them technicalities, they say this doesn't happen here. It happened with me, though not face to face. Somebody calls me from through Facebook, they take my number. And when you talk engineering, and if I say, oh, you have 25 years experience, you are very good, you must have plenty of knowledge, experience. Yes, they admit, but when you raise questions to them, they, they may not be able to respond to those questions positively and only say, I don't know. If a response comes, I don't know, what does it mean? For example, I give a very simple example. Suppose a person has 25 years post-engineering degree experience. I consider that person on top class, active class you can say, top active class, because 25 years of experience has some meaning. Your degree is for 5 years maximum. Your post-graduation may be 1.5 years, and your doctorate may be for a couple of years. But it's a 25 years experience you have, and that too is professional experience, not workers' experience. You are an engineer, you had been an engineer, you have been an engineer. So you must have worked somewhere in responsible position, and 25 years of work is very significant one. If it is engineering work, even if it is government sector, it's very important that you should be a person of repute, you should be a person of knowledge. 25 years means you are top class engineer. You have gone far from degree level. You might have done a couple of projects, big projects, or a chain of small projects, and that includes designs and construction or planning, or whatever field you are in. You should be considered high level of professional. But if I raise some questions to them and I do not find those answers, which are very common and should happen with everyone, then really I feel to think on, what is this? It happens since a person, I talk to him, 25 years experience, I can say, I just raise questions about concrete. You know concrete, what is concrete? Used in your slabs in concrete. I just raise some questions about temperature controls and say that person does not answer. He doesn't understand what temperature control is. It's very, very preliminary requirement. And what do you think? That 25 years of experience, is that acceptable if you can't even answer very simple question? Same way, I asked some very top class government engineer one time, long back. That person was superintending engineer, and that person could not define what is concrete. He was, when this question was raised to that person, define concrete, that person responded as if what question was. It was some dream question or it was some real question. Same way it happens. It happens if you ask some questions of field. They are very interested in designs I have experienced. I realized that everybody, particularly new generation, or you can say young engineers or budding engineers, they are very much interested in designs. And the reason is that design now does not require manual calculations. It doesn't require very complicated formula calculations because of software. Calculations have lost its sense in engineering because software calculates everything. So your calculation power has gone, your contemplation power has gone, and that's what I say, communication and coordination. If you cannot conceive, if you cannot, calculate, I don't know how do you operate communication and coordination. Communication and coordination, you can say, are basic requirements in whatever creative work or whatever thinking or ethical work, analytical work we conduct in engineering. Engineering is a world of communication, coordination, calculations, and without that we cannot do anything. Civil engineering is such a branch of engineering where calculation is very important. Without this we cannot do anything. But when you depend on software, whatever software of designs, you only can use it. Designers use software and they design using results. You are a software engineer indirectly, you are a user, you have no capacity to manually work out design. And if you talk like this to them, they think because he does not know this, that's why he's talking. It can answer, it can be, I can expect that answer, that response. From first principles, they cannot design. They don't have capacity to check it. They don't have capacity to recognize results, whether or not these results are justified. Even if data is incorrect, they cannot find that data was incorrect, because it happens when you use yourself something, you won't find data. And of course, young engineers are always, they hesitate to refer something to others for re-verification, because of, every engineer, every student who comes out of university fresh, that engineer thinks I am engineer, and there's nothing wrong with that. You are engineer, very well, welcome. But you are not in engineering yet. You are an engineer. Of course, you have certificate. You are honorable person, but you have no engineering experience. First, you have experience, then you shall realize difference of engineering education and difference of experience. Because only in engineering experience values. There is no other field, there is no other, you can say, profession where experiences gives you input except engineering. Because, for example, in medical science, procedures are defined. Even surgeon cannot do anything during surgery, one has to follow procedures. And those procedures cannot be altered. It applies to statutes also. It applies to chartered accountancy, and it applies to law. It applies to teaching. It applies to every other profession, or you can say occupation, that you have to work on. You have to work on whatever has been decided, whatever has been mandated. Can't go oppose that. But in engineering, because it is a constructive field, it is not a copied and paste field, it is not a reiteration field. Every design is new. There may be variations, there may be changes. Every design is different. Every design has different structure, different materials, and this design we have to apply. Every application is different in every branch of engineering. So you can say openly and constructively and reliably that engineering is different. You educate yourself, you do degrees, then you cannot say you can work, because there is a gap between engineering education and getting fitness towards industry or towards work. And that gap cannot be filled by one project only, which is requirement and education. That gap can be filled only by few years of experience in whatever field of design or whatever field of construction you work in. that field is very significant. Years of work can teach you something, and decades of work can teach you more. Therefore, it's very important to realize that more and more real experience teaches you more and more. It's not only books that you have to read, you have to read resources, you have to read documents, real documents, you have to read manufacturer processes, you have to read industrial processes, you have to read properties of materials, you have to read so much really if you want to enjoy engineering practice. Earning money is another requirement, but here I am talking how to make yourself an engineer. And if you think that when you have lot experience a stage comes, of course you think rightly, at that time you realize that your education is only partly used, not fully. You did study a lot, maybe you studied many fields, but in one field only you are consolidated. For a couple of years you do not know ABCD of other field, and if you go to other field you will find yourself uncomfortable, and that's why engineers stay in one field and they get expertise. But I would say comfortable or uncomfortable, we have to overlap fields, we have to interact with fields and learn more and more. That's why I say, see, we have to work under some system, and beauty is that this system is designed by engineers and used by engineers and further improved by engineers. And we simply say for every activity, plan, do, check and improve. Or you can say plan, do, check and act. First you plan it, then you do it, then you check it, and then you improve it or to act on to improve that deficiency. That is what is engineering. Therefore, every engineer must have open mind rather than closed one. That is first requirement. We have to be very clear about this. You always see this file on during my talk, because I want to remind everyone that I am not talking just for sake of talking. I am talking for sake of reality. And this is based on my own experience, where I felt that deficiency existed. Most important deficiency exists nowadays is in communication and coordination. Then deficiency exists in documentations, because documentations people don't understand and they don't take interest. People have lost property of reading, property of writing. It is almost lost because of medium, because of conferences, because of videos. We depend on them rather than on our capacity. So you can say quality which is required everywhere is not available virtually. So this file is always with you, and it tells everyone facts of life. We think of present, we refer ourselves to past, and we want to see in dreams good future, but we don't work towards that. And that's why I say, when others use you, you become toys. Engineering says you do right work, but we say we do what my boss says. What's the difference? We forget that engineering is something original. Civil engineering in particular is very original, where new knowledge, new formula, new practice, new method, new materials always come into play, and we have to realize this fact. We have to realize this fact, and we have to realize this fact also, that whatever work we do, that is done under some system, within some system, by some system, through some system. I am using all requirements. We cannot simply sit and talk of something, but we have to understand that. We have to work under quality system. We have to work under quality system, and this system is designed by engineers from around world. This is not designed by government. This is designed by engineers themselves based on experience, based on problems. This means this is something which we have to amend or we have to comply with. In latest information, ISO 9001 has given us an AnnexSL, that is high level structure of language, high level structured language, and I was talking about supervising management of RCC construction. I took this particularly because RCC is very important item, and I had gone up to leadership. I had gone up to leadership class 5, then I covered also planning part, and then of course we have to go to support. I talked of planning, I talked of leadership, and we know that leadership is very significant on projects. Not only on projects, everywhere in life leadership is important, and if leadership is not good, you can say followership cannot be good, because those who follow, they follow leaders, or they follow leads, they walk on footprints of leads or of leaders, and if they walk on bad footprints, they shall certainly perform badly, or if they walk on good footprints, they would perform successfully, positively. So this is very significant point, who should be leader and who should be followers. In engineering itself is leadership, you can say, forget engineers. When we say engineering, this means a field of leadership, and it is leadership. Engineering education teaches everyone how to lead. First requirement is that one should lead itself. If I cannot lead myself, how can I lead others? I have to find my own weaknesses if I want to lead myself. I have to analyze my own personality, my own knowledge areas, what knowledge I have. Everybody has some knowledge, everybody has some, deficiency in knowledge. Nobody is perfect, nobody is complete, that is also true. But what can I do in best way? I have to know. Or maybe my very closest people, my closest friends know. What can I do? Sometimes it happens that you can know everything, but in fact others know better than about what you know, and also that others know about you, but how much do you know based on your performance. But in fact, ultimately, it is person only, individual only who knows. So my first requirement, my first consideration, my first target is always individuality. Engineer means individuality, and engineer means group. Engineering means what? Engineering means team. Engineering has every meaning, but I stand number one when I say individuality, because individuality is very significant, extremely significant, outstandingly significant. If I can move myself, I can support myself, I can lead myself, I can check myself, I can review myself, I can edit myself, I can proof check myself. Well, I think it's great. It's great because at least you have capacity to do all this. Maybe at very small scale. But this is a kind of unit, that this individual is a unit of this sequence of activities. And if this unit person, this characters of this person is used, this person can do wonders. Because I am follower of myself, I am leader of myself, I am doer of myself, I am checker of myself, everything I am. This means my mind operates on all these spare parts and connected parts. My mind knows how to handle myself. My mind tells me where I make mistakes. I don't need anybody else to tell me. I know myself. I am a resource, I am a competence, I am awareness, I am communication, I am document. I am my own support. I have my own foundation. I have my own soil. I know what load I have, and what load I know my resistance. If I can know about myself, it's very easy that my understanding goes to that. I can know about everybody. I can handle my team respectively, fruitfully, or you can say, I can become a teacher, I can become a student, I can become a performer, I can become a reformer, I can become an improver. It is called self-study. Self-study. You are a self-teacher. Self-teaching is significant, it's very significant. Self-study is self-teaching. Those who teach self, they don't have any problems in qualifying whatever course, whatever program, whatever degree. Because they have a struggling state. They don't need every time some teacher for them. Of course, in exceptional cases, that's fine, but to refer to whatever resources of study material, one should have habit. I should not say my professor did not teach me this chapter, I can't answer. Once you are an engineer, you must have hunger, you must have deficiency to learn more. A hunger, a thirst to learn more, irrespective of what payment you are getting, irrespective of what salary you have. Because management has a limit, but engineering has no limit. Till time you die, you are an engineer, you are a thinker, but you have to work for that. We have lost quality because we don't have culture. And culture means character is also a part of culture. How to work is also a part of culture. And not only how to work, hunger to work, thirst to work. You can say, like we drink water, some people drink milk, some people take whiskey. Now, what is your choice? You want to hangover or you want to remain aware, remain unsleepy? You want to realize your visionary dreams, or you want to just imagine I have got something? It's not philosophical talk. Because engineering means creation, original creation, based on materials available. Original, I am saying process, I am not saying material. Material is not original. Material is natural. All materials, whatever we use in engineering, nothing is original. But what we have to do, how to use that? Here is a question mark. When I was young, I could not realize that much. When I was a student, I could not realize that much. And in fact, I did not know anything about what should be done. I didn't know what is money, how does it come, what is engineering, what's purpose. But as time passed and we tried to learn, work in field, and we have to understand everything, at a time comes that apart from engineering you have to learn other parts of world, other parts of profession, which are linked to you directly or indirectly. You cannot run away from them. Civil engineering is something very technical and also something rational. There is no hypothetism in engineering. Of course, every formula is based on hypothetism, or you can say speculation. When we say, oh, I am going to design some framework of building, and I will think of how this whole system shall vibrate. It's a fact, system vibrates, but we have not seen, we have felt. We have not seen deflections of beam practically, we have not seen deflection of slab, but this happen. It is, you can't see by your visionary eyes. You have to think of that. We have to immerse our minds into that state where these movements of structure happen and which every person cannot realize, and we also can't see, but we can feel that this can happen. Measurements are conducted during research, during testing, and of course if you consider practically load test, you shall see that there are variations, there are deflections, there are recoveries of deflections. So you can say engineering is full of such activities. These are all technical activities, inspection and testing activities, checking activities, research activities, work activities. And because we use materials based on established practices, based on established practices based properties, we have not seen these properties, but we use those fundamental units of those properties. For example, we use, say, this is load, this is area, we have to find stress, or we have to find strain, we have to find Young modulus, or we have to modulus rigidity. Whatever we say, deflection we have to calculate, bending moment we have to calculate, shear force we have to calculate, or whatever is given by science, engineering based science, we use those. So that is input. We have to use them. We cannot go without that. And similarly, we have to use other subjects. We have to use, you can say, planning part. Means you have to plan yourself. You have to plan to complete project. You have to plan best way, efficient way, economical way to complete a project. This project may be design project or construction project, or it may be rehaul, or it may be green field or brown field. It may be whatever. We have to do it. And it is for some development work, it is for some, you can say, infrastructural development, or it may be manufacturing development. It is for your area, it is for your nation, or for whole world. Everywhere engineering exists. And not only civil engineering, many other interactive fields exist. And in many other interactive fields like electrical, power generation, or some mechanical work, product parts, or you can say industrial plants, civil engineering is also interactive because of its involvement in foundations, its involvement in services. Likewise, we have all these requirements, all these interconnections which cannot ignore. And that's why I say when you move up and up in your experience of construction or experience of work, even in designs, you have to interact with those disciplines or with those branches of engineering without which we cannot do anything because of multidisciplinary nature of projects. Somewhere civil engineering dominates, somewhere mechanical engineering dominates, somewhere electrical engineering dominates. Likewise, domination changes from one project to another project, no problem. But work is work, and civil engineering is very, very fundamental work on which rests all other engineerings. You can say that civil engineering is a foundation element of all other engineering, and foundations are required. I can say that civil engineering is basis of development. It's not because I am a civil engineer and I have to say that. No. For me, every engineering is respectful. When I studied civil engineering, it's not only that I studied civil engineering, I also studied elements of electrical engineering. I also studied thermodynamics. You can say I studied these subjects because of requirement. Even I studied social science, which you may not even imagine. I studied sociology, small economics, and little portion of civics. I studied labor relations and civics in my diploma state education. I studied fluid mechanics, construction, surveying, designs, theory. And likewise, there is expansion of subjects. We cannot confine that. Same way we can say in our system, we have to depend on various subjects, particularly at graduate level, at BE level, or you may say engineering first degree level. And that's what I say when we talk of leadership. Leadership is related to support. Leadership has to create support, and also leadership has to depend on support. And support is what? There is support of mechanical engineering, support of electrical engineering, or civil engineering, and same as civil engineering has to support other engineering. Nothing is independent in this world. Nothing. Just like nature is dependent on each other, sun provides every planet something. Same way, we have to provide something to others, and others have to provide something to us. So when I say support and leadership as well as planning, you see, let us take case of planning. When we plan, I'm talking of designs and construction. Actually, this is part of design or supervision, you can say. Supervising management, I'm talking of design, we'll talk later on. I have to supervise project. What does it mean? I have to supervise everything of this project. If it is building projects particularly, or it is infrastructure project or facilities project, what I have to supervise depends on what type of project it is. Building is such a discipline, particularly in RCC buildings. It is very complex. It's like more complex than a plants project or infrastructure project. If we compare buildings project, I am saying high profile buildings project to a ethylene plant project, or you can some other chemical plant project, you'll find a lot of differences. In buildings project, buildings can be of whatever nature, whatever type. It can be single story, or it can be high rise, or it can be ordinary plotted house, or a dwelling unit system or housing system, or it can be commercial building, it can be residential building, institutional building. And same way, if you study, if you read certain facility of plants, we shall find that plants has different kinds of belongings, different kinds of work, and it is like, you can say, it doesn't have high rise, it doesn't have even multiple buildings. It has simple buildings like administration building, warehouse building, some amenities building, substations building, or you can say machine building, in which machines or compressors or others are installed, structural steel buildings, RCC buildings, infrastructure facilities, piping, electrical, or whatever else. You can say open areas, reservoirs. You may say complete components are different, and that's why you may have thousands of drawings in a plants. Of course, you shall have, but coordinations are different. Complexity is very, very difficult in infrastructure of that project of plants. Of course, all buildings are different, designs are different, and designs of this building, particularly structural steel building, which we call steel building, which generally house very heavy equipment or machines, processing machines. Those buildings have very much, not that level of complication, but independence it has. Piping system is too cumbersome. Structural steels, or you can say internal structure, is too cumbersome. You can't even imagine complexity of that. And of course, foundations, which are generally different, massive or ordinary. And while you compare these to some buildings which may be blast resistant one, RCC domination, and also other buildings which are non-blast, like in areas where process impact doesn't go, those buildings are only frame building with block works inside. But if you go to buildings projects, say housing projects, or you can say another complex, commercial or whatever it is, that one, you find different kind of course, your sections are same, architectural drawings, you can before that architectural planning drawing, or layout plans, or key plan, or site plan, domination of architecture and structural, and not full domination of services, but supportive domination of services, all services, electrical, mechanical, civil. Civil is, of course, it is plumbing, water line, sewer line, external drainage, or security. Of course, you may say there is a packet of designs in that area, in that project. Means say there is a group of buildings, every building has some packet of designs, packet of drawings, all disciplines together in different one, and those drawings and those details are required to be coordinated at each step. Coordination is required. There is called technical coordination, and same technical coordination is also required in infrastructure projects, as I said, plant project, where coordination is not like this. This coordination for buildings is okay, fine, but those buildings are not high rise, single story, 2-story, or maximum 3-story, not more than that. And there will be electrical substations, which are independent coordination, means everything is exposed and surface mounted. But in some buildings like administration area or amenities area, or you can say particular in these, you will find coordination like you do in buildings, because it is not industrial building. Generally industrial buildings, all fittings, all services are provided on surface, you can say surface mounted. So concealed items work very little, but in buildings which I am talking, concealed items or inserts do dominate. We have to friction like this, or we have to section like this. So there is a difference in detailing, there is a difference in management or organization of such drawings, but work is same. In building projects, you have to coordinate a design itself. While in such projects where infrastructure exists, utilities exist, you have to coordinate utilities among utilities. Various piping system, various underground system, overground system. We have to understand them and we have to avoid clashes, because clashes are very difficult to solve. But clashes between other disciplines on buildings are very, you can say, important, particularly architectural, structural clashes, services clashes, and so many others. We have to see this system differs. But if you go to road project, you will find entirely different world. Not that much, but something. If you take care of some airport project, you will find entirely different world. Services, utilities, tunneling, and same way if you go to some other projects, likewise in, you can say, car parking for example, or some hospital for example, or somewhere services dominate. In hospital, services are so many that you have to provide basement, maybe for utility tunnel or for services, and big basements, not small basements. Same thing, you have to provide in some very other multi-story structures, basement, car parking, or some other. You can say it depends on what sort of building it is, and that's why I say that system differs. When we say this system, clause 1 to 10, and I'm talking of support and planning, planning and leadership along with support. This can be combined together, because support depends on what is your project, it depends on what planner thinks, and it depends on what site guy thinks. Site guy takes it on way, but both planner and site guy have to combine together, because ultimately it is site person who has to do work. And if site person is not happy with your planning, then your planning doesn't mean anything, because complexities what can happen on site, those complexity levels are known to site guy and not to planning guy. Yes, if you are a planner but you were site person before, that's fine, that you are a planning and was site expert, then you can take your own way. Or if I think if time allows, and site person can plan very well, means no theoretical planning but practical angle planning. Theory does not help in planning, because theory is theory, but charting out, how to chart out your plan of actions of every activity, that is very important. कोई भी प्रोजेक्ट हो, उसमें लीडरशिप, प्लानिंग और सेवाएं या सपोर्ट्स काम आती हैं. किसी भी प्रोजेक्ट को मजाक में नहीं लिया जा सकता, चाहे वो बिल्डिंग का प्रोजेक्ट हो, भवन निर्माण का प्रोजेक्ट हो, या किसी बड़ी केमिकल फैक्ट्री का, केमिकल प्लांट्स का, या किसी भी सड़क का प्रोजेक्ट हो, किसी भी और चीज़ का प्रोजेक्ट हो. हर प्रोजेक्ट का अपना एक महत्व होता है, अपनी एक दुनिया होती है. पर्टिकुलरली इंजीनियरिंग में सब कुछ आप यूनिवर्सिटी से नहीं सीख सकते, संभव नहीं है. इंजीनियरिंग इतनी बड़ी दुनिया बन चुकी है कि 4 वर्ष 5 वर्ष कुछ नहीं होते इसमें. कई बार तो सारी जिंदगी बीत जाती है, पर समझ ही नहीं आता कि इंजीनियरिंग का मतलब क्या है. आपको हंसी आएगी ये सुन के, हंसी आए या ना आए, लेकिन सच्चाई यही है. हम एक बहुत छोटा सा पढ़ाई करके इंजीनियर कहने लगते हैं अपने आप को. मैं समझता हूँ इंजीनियरिंग एक पूरा विश्व है जिसको हर व्यक्ति नहीं पढ़ सकता. नेचर जो बना, सौरमंडल जो बना, वो भी इंजीनियरिंग से बना, अभियंत्रिकी से बना. कैसे बना आज भी हम नहीं समझ पाए. हम छोटी सी काम करते हैं, छोटे से प्रोजेक्ट ज़मीन पे बना देते हैं और समझते हैं हम ही सब कुछ हैं, सोच में ऐसा बस जाता है। सच तो ये हम कुछ भी नहीं हैं। अगर हम विकास को देखें, कोई भी विकास एक ब्रांच ऑफ इंजीनियरिंग से नहीं होता, एक इंजीनियरिंग ब्रांच नहीं कर सकती। इसमें पूरी इंजीनियरिंग की नॉलेज चाहिए। ब्रांचें तो हमने बनाई हैं और ब्रांचें बना के हम अपने आप को विशेषज्ञ समझने लगे हैं। ये हमारी कमी है, ना कोई विशेषज्ञ है। अगर आप विशेषज्ञ का मतलब जान लें तो इसका एनालिसिस आप करके देखिए, विशेषज्ञ का मतलब क्या होता है या विशेषता का क्या मतलब क्या होता है। इसमें होता है विषय और यज्ञ। विषय कोई भी टॉपिक है, कोई भी सब्जेक्ट है, टाइटल है, उसे विषय कह सकते हैं आप, और उसका यज्ञ करना, उसके ऊपर चलते रहना, उसे विशेषज्ञता कहते हैं। और इंजीनियरिंग में तो कितनी विशेषज्ञताएं हैं हम नहीं जानते। मेडिकल साइंस में भी बहुत विशेषज्ञताएं हम नहीं जानते। लेकिन जाने या ना जाने, कर्म तो करना पड़ेगा। मैं कभी भी सिविल इंजीनियरिंग को पैसे से नहीं तोलता, क्योंकि सिविल इंजीनियर जो काम करता है आप समझ ही नहीं सकते, आप जान नहीं सकते। सिविल इंजीनियर जो करता है वो सिविल इंजीनियर ही जान सकता है, और कोई इंजीनियर जान नहीं सकता। क्योंकि जब आप बलिदान देने जाते हैं, कितने % लोग बलिदान देना स्वीकार करेंगे? वही हाल सिविल इंजीनियर का है। वो ना भी चाहे तो बलिदान तो देना पड़ेगा। जंगल में तो रहना पड़ेगा, डेजर्ट में तो रहना पड़ेगा, धूल मिट्टी में तो लेना पड़ेगा, हवा का मिट्टी भी सूंघनी पड़ेगी, गर्मी भी सहनी पड़ेगी, बारिश भी सहनी पड़ेगी, और फिर गालियाँ भी सुननी पड़ेंगी लोगों की। क्योंकि आप अच्छा काम नहीं कर रहे तो आपको लोग क्या कहेंगे आप अच्छी तरह जानते हैं। इंजीनियर को इंजीनियर ने ही ख़राब कर दिया, इंजीनियर को राजनीति ने ख़राब कर दिया। इंजीनियर एक धर्म है, मैं इंजीनियर को एक धर्म मानता हूँ, एक इंजीनियरिंग को धर्म मानता हूँ। इंजीनियरिंग एक पेशा नहीं है, क्योंकि आप वो काम कर रहे हैं जो एक अजीब सा काम है। आप ऐसा मकान बना के दे के जा रहे हैं, ऐसा प्रोजेक्ट बना के दे के जा रहे हैं जो कितने वर्षों तक चलेगा बनाने वाला भी नहीं जानता। तो आप उस मटेरियल को जो ऊपर वाले ने दिया है, कोई भी मटेरियल जो सीधा साधा रॉ है, हम उसको यूज़ करते हैं। उसको क्रश करने के बाद वो चाहे स्टोन्स हो या वो रॉक का चूरा हो और चट्टान का चूरा हो या कुछ और हो, पानी हो, सीमेंट भी नेचुरल प्रोडक्ट बन से आती है। सीमेंट कोई ओरिजिनल मटेरियल नहीं है। ये बातें हमको माइंड में रखकर सोचना चाहिए, आगे चलना चाहिए। मैं बीच में हिंदी में बोल रहा हूँ कुछ बताने के लिए, वो तो मैं सब ट्रांसलेट नहीं कर रहा हूँ जो मैंने इंग्लिश में बोला, क्योंकि मैं खुद भूल जाता हूँ मैंने क्या बोला। वेल, नाउ वी हैव टू थिंक आवरसेल्फ, we have to develop ourselves, and that development means we should be smart enough, not by dress or not by sense of English speaking or sense of some other language speaking. We have to think about how to improve our work. As I said, every individuality is very important, and engineering is done by individuality. Of course, as a group is fixed, aim is fixed, objective is fixed, but individuality still can't be fixed, because every individual has different capacity. Yes, you can spoil yourself very easily. You can spoil yourself, but if you want to build yourself, if you want to improve your quality system, your own quality system, then you have to think about yourself. You have to try yourself. You can improve because you are educated one. You can concentrate because you can think. And if you cannot think, then I don't know you can come out of engineering successfully. If you don't think rightly, you can say it is different. So I was saying leadership and planning are together. If I sit on planning, I have my own conception, and when somebody plans what I am planning, both plans shall be different because of conception, because of given data of contract. How many persons really study contract before doing all these activities of planning or designs? How many people go to those books which are provided for purpose of references? If I have to plan, I have to organize, I have to lead, I have to use my support. That's what I'm trying to say. And my support is on site or off site. These supports I have to use. But it's up to me to elect which support I want. What's my weakness, or what's my weakness, how my weakness can be hidden. I have to decide as an engineer, and my mind should be active in that direction. If I have to think of construction, my mind should remain on construction. It cannot be said otherwise. Very important point it is. So if I have to lead in supervision, I have to instruct everyone. These are required. Planning as supervisor. If I am a planning supervisor, I am a planning engineer, I have to be sure what contracting party likes to do. Yes, a plan before bid is released, that is indicative plan, just for informing contractor what is our intention, and that plan may be used on work or may not be used on work. It's different. It's all for construction, but it's used for material production, and this plan can be amended also which others produce, and that's why it depends on line of action that we have to every line of action on whatever area of construction. That line of action should be clearly defined, and that is very important part, most important part I can say. If I cannot do planning rightly, then forget that I can do project. Engineer must have a vision of output. It must have a vision of distance traveling. Distance traveling means mile distance, not car traveling. One should know time coefficient, time organization of machine, time coefficients of workers, time coefficients of all other requirements, and then time can be calculated based on what resources one has to use. These resources, what we have to use, cannot be discarded. If we see that this resource, we use this means for so many hours, we can do this, we can achieve our system performance. System is not simply written on papers. It should be established also. If it is not established properly, this means there is a flaw in your approach, and that flaw we must find out. We cannot solely depend on planning expert or on other experts. We have to see self, what is going to be done, what is best way of doing that one. Planning, if done correctly, it helps everybody that we know. If it is done correctly, and it cannot be done correctly just by planning guy. Planning guy has to involve project people who would carry out project. Those people must be consulted. If you do not consult them, I think you waste your time. It's a part of coordination, because maybe something which planning guy cannot understand because of lack of experience of construction, but because planning is office oriented, it's not site work, it is work where you sit on computer and in office, air conditioned office. Likewise design people, you are planning people. But I consider planning person that one who can plan and do a job. I don't think that only having your bar chart organization and you think it's over, that's not planning. That is a part of planning, not full planning. If you want to do part planning, okay, you can forget all the activities. But if it's no, I want to learn everything, I think that's the best approach of an engineer. Planning, I say, I have explained to you that everyone is a leader. I cannot underestimate, I cannot underassess those experts in physical actions. You may call them workers or you may call them team. Sometimes they are very useful. Of course, you cannot expect them quality from, but efficiency of those persons, speed of those persons can be utilized, particularly in low temperature hours. At nights, you can call them whatever you want to say. Resource management, resource organization, or you can say support organization and leadership role. Prime leadership by key personnel is very important. Leadership should be from bottom to top. Leaders means you have every role to play, every role, wet role or dry role. Every role is required to be played, and that is where leadership stands. Leadership stands there, and we have to contemplate and think. It won't take many days, it's couple of hours. Your thinking can be complete if you have great experience and when you have seen all contract requirements, contract documents, and your friendly company, organization exists there, and you can say leadership has an important role. You have to lead project. Of course, you have to lead yourself, but you have to lead project, objective, and project resources. Project resources, you have to lead. You cannot waste resources and you cannot hold on resources. These must be installed at right time. And for that, advanced planning is required. That's what I am stressing on leadership. If my support is supported well, I am saying my support, I am calling my support that silence won't answer. Silence won't answer. Response would answer. We have to develop support ourselves. We have to develop supports ourselves. Technical support, non-technical support, committed support. We have to have such staffing personnel who may be expert on their activities but may know nothing about our specialized world. We have to understand this. As I said, supports can be made. Supports can be created by investment and by incentive. Support means resources, it means competence, it means awareness, it means communication, it means documented information, and also certain considerations we have to take into our analysis: material, equipment, and human resources, capacity, potential of organization and individual, qualification of personnel, awareness among all pertinent systems and its functioning, and of course written job you can say description, work procedures, safety procedure, and we have material, equipment, and human resources, capacity, potential of organization and individual, qualification of personnel, awareness among all pertinent systems and its functioning, relevant functioning, written job description, work procedures, safety procedures, quality control procedures, administration and methods, etc. Documented information is different than documents. Whatever information about organization, management, or procedures or process in whatever form, such as written text, maps, charts, design, successful implementation, evidence of compliance of requirements, or no system of documents but evidentiary available documents of system. We have to understand this point. Now in this annex we can write whatever is required and whatever is essential for particular project. Resources being electronic equipment, computer, printers, office establishment or whatever else. Then resources being documentary information, what has been documented, that one. And also all supervising human resources being leaders, senior engineers, all supervising human resources. All supervising human resources should have relevant professional diplomas or degrees. Leaders and seniors should have required registrations with authorities and institutions as required by law of land. And all personnel should have adequate expertise in respective disciplines or callings. And all personnel should be inducted with required information, given understanding regarding management organization system, its related tasks, relative tasks, risks and reduction of risks, can say. All personnel should communicate for all significant activities, and leaders need ensure working of complete effective coordination, communication. All information and communication should be recorded properly to demonstrate that system has been adequately complied with. No superfluous work should be carried out if not so required, but essential activity or operational task should not be missed. Additionally, outsourced support should be used in case so required. keeping in view project requirement, and many more. It is just the list for information, nothing in this. Again I say, important point is individual conduct, individual role on whatever designated title, but despite designated title, engineer role, or you can say engineer's colleague's role, as well as individual's role, play very important part in working management, working organization. Resources are human, resources are machines, equipment, resources is technology, resources is books and libraries, and resources are meant to every such requirement. If we do not really value these resources, if we do not train them, if they require training, it is our own asset, means what level of training is required to this personnel, despite they have training in some other field. Being professional world, training has become a part of life. Whatever training is required to do jobs efficiently should be preferred by employers. If employer does not do that, employer does not ensure that engineers or engineering supervisors are not well trained, we have to think of that, because supervision field is very important from controls viewpoint, because it is through supervisors only that employer can control contractor and engineer can control contractor, and of course resident engineer can control contractor, staff and contractor. It may be defined role or undefined role, but some kind of certainty must exist that these people would do this or would do that. Time of 1 hour of supervisor or consultant is equivalent to maybe 3 or 4 days of work of a contractor, and what workforce has been used for that can be proportionally checked. I have seen in big projects, 4 or 5 teachers sit together and work out. Supervision means you are not doing anything, but you are checking, you are inspecting. But I differ from this. Supervision means you have to ensure safety of work, strength of work, but you do not know anything more than this. To bring into line to my requirement, I have to make my officing, my supervising staff very precise, very pointed, with complete details of inspection. Before inspection is allowed, site people know what is to be done. My supervisor or my supervisor, my role is that I have to control contractors. In fact, it is control of activity, and indirectly it is control of so contractors. Contractor has to work for project, and I have to make sure that contractor does its job according to requirements. That is basics of supervision. It's not supervision of workers, it's supervision of activity. In fact, it's not supervision. Supervision by contracting staff is different. I'm talking about engineers staff. Complete conformity with procedures and with technologies or with method statements. Whatever is available, supervision should be on that kind of activity. It's really a philosophy that we can say we apply with. Yeah. Supervision of activities is technical, it's procedural, it's physical, and of course it is time consuming, because first of all we have to supervise correctness of drawings, we have to make sure that shop drawings and working drawings are approved, and this is where approval is done through that supervisor, because supervisor, or you can say qualified engineer in forms of supervisor, scrutinizes those details which are submitted from vendor or subcontractor or contractor, and these drawings must be within certain limits, with a certain code provision, as people just argue for nothing, particularly people in USA and country like USA and more have to realize those facts. If it's not same, it's different. I can't help contractor if contractor does not listen to what I say. Purpose of my being there is to help project come out, not help honor with project come out of its operational stage, so that we may get benefit in the future. It's different role, and I can explain a lot, because you know, it is function of activity that has to do. You have to check material, you have to check activities, you have to check results, you have to do testing work, you have to do instruction work, and you have to respond in a way others cannot respond. Others cannot respond. That's true. We have to respond. Contractor is more smart than what we are, because contractor has taken responsibility of project, absolute and total responsibility of project. It is contractor. I, as a supervisor, just to help, just to guide, just to make sure that whatever specifications have been included, these are complied with, and procedures and others, whatever we can find, we say we are using it. Good. Services are utilized, and services are great. In fact, I learn from projects. In fact, I also learn from contractors' contribution to project. I also learn from documents which have been prepared by designers. I have to learn from all available information in field. The role of a supervisor and role of constructor are same. If you combine these two, you will find real role. Site is of contractor and contractor isn't given responsibility to individual. That's we cannot get rid of this element of supervision, particularly in material approval. When we say concrete arrives on site, if we talk of ready-mix organization, this means material arrives on site and we test that material means direct access. That's very particular. It says that Kamal Hussain, for example, or whoever is there, whoever nationality is there, we interact technically, we interact specification wise, and we want to make sure is this work is going to be right. In fact, method statements are written for every activity, and if not written, then we have to write them. We cannot say that I give it to consultant, because if I say that, maybe consultant charges me, so I cannot pay. It is therefore very, very significant point I am telling you. Having proper study, having proper communication, having proper role of contract, reading and understanding all the important clauses which relate to consultancy, and whatever else can be called. If you want to dispose right role, you must collect right information, and that is what I say resource. You become yourself a resource. You become yourself a resource and collect information, collect communication, and then communicate to others. If contractor thinks that you are not competent enough or you have missed something, then contractor can realize that this person can be used. Don't let that stage arrive. Contracting cannot be done by hazards. It itself is an hazard. I am saying it clearly that what we do, how we do, is perfect or not perfect, we have to find. No superfluous work should be carried out, but exact work should be carried out. Exact work. Because if you make mistakes, those mistakes are very expensive in terms of resources cost, in terms of time, and in terms of reliability of your quality. So what we said in this, we can say it may be electronic or equipment computer, or it can be documentary information or human resources at every level, and you can say supervising phenomenon, then registrations, etc. Whatever you do, these are required to be disproportionate. When we say additional outsourced support should be used in case of so required, keeping in view project requirement. Actually, subcontractors are also support. Contractor is also support for employer. Contract is not very simple. It is professional. Don't take it as if it is a shop. Contractor is a responsibility. Only difference is that you do not add value to your contract. Add value to lump sum contracts, lump sum itemized based contracts. Generally, you'll find this happening around. Now we have to move further, and that's operation. And we have operations here. We shall be little, comprehensive onto that because this is a part of this work and operations. Meanwhile, I'll take 5 minutes or 10 minutes to come back as usual, and we'll see if this video continues. You can mean I'll read this and I'll be back in a couple of minutes after doing my little operation here. Of course, we have to take that point into consideration about resources and about this. We can say here is operation that that are going to work very well in this, and it says that here operation, which is, we may say, operational planning and control, and it is points of consideration are in-house process, outsourced process, and overall process includes adequate criteria to control these processes. Now, what we say in this, that is, all operations involved on supervising projects related to RCC buildings amount to numerous activities. You may say you cannot define numbers to numerous activities varying in nature from structural to non-structural, finishings, cladding, closure of openings, and many others. All such activities require varying procedures on same locations, which are based on varying national and international codes and practices, as well as affected for certain essentials for which there is some shortage in supervising house management or organization. Leaders require necessarily as a part of job description to ensure that all operations do well in all respects. Should be affected during all stages. Red lines recorded, as built recorded, required, so as not to delay whatever task. Once all operations on project are completed, project requires closure to close contract formally. According to practice and conventions, contractor requires to submit complete dossiers in all respects to cover whole documentation of project performance, which would support future references for end users. Supervising organization manager is responsible to receive all such dossiers for review and final approval. In charting closure of contract, successful completion of contract and leading contract to maintenance period, including defects liability period, and further followed by final completion of contract to discharge contractor. This is operation activities and real operation of plant. I am engineer say, I am resident engineer say, and I have plenty of staff. Plenty means to do job. It's not plenty successfully, you can say. It's not plenty surplus. It is required one. But plenty means that I have not to work alone. Depending on size of project, supervision is conducted and supervision is done. Generally, you may select projects are not small. When we say project, this means something cost wise in millions or in billions. And there are, you can say, a list of operations or activities which can be listed on, you can say, program or schedule, but those are also limited. Those are also limited. There are many activities which cannot be written, and these are done. Every major work is done in number of activities. It may be structural work or it may be finishing work. It may be other work. Only major works are defined. Prime activities are defined, not detailed activities. Because it's not possible to relate each detailed activities, and time study of each activity cannot be done. It depends on total results. We have to understand this point. If you try to say, I know time study, okay, you know time study, but you know time study of a gross work. We do not know time study of everything. But experience can analyze that. Real experience, not book experience. It can analyze time, and you can say it can analyze time. Even excavation can vary in time. Excavation, which is start of some project, in activity term, not in survey term, that also varies. You may have very hard rock, you may have medium class rock, site may have soil, that is, clay or sand or limestone, or you can say peat. Excavation is different in every case. Sometimes you say, oh, it's very fast, I employed excavator, and excavator has done a wonderful job, that in 2 or 3 days I have excavated whole area. I have excavated 2000 cubic meter or 1500 cubic meter or 1000 cubic meter, depending on soil, and you see it's very fast. But the same work, if you do in rock, you can say even middle level rock or soft rock, you have to use excavator bucket by replacement, and that replacement part is rock breaker, hammer, you can say rock hammer. You have to use rock breaker hammer in place of excavator bucket, and that is where it differs in its approach. Very soft soil could be excavated very rapidly, but rock cannot be excavated like that. And blasting is no alternative in every case. So you can say here, if you take from drawing, this is dimension of excavation, and I can do it in 3 days, but you did not realize that it is rock area or it is some other area where excavation cannot be done rapidly, and it may take in many cases, in place of 3 days or 4 days, a couple of weeks or many weeks or even months. You can take case of Ruwais Abu Dhabi, or you can take case of, you can say Dukhan in Qatar, or Amsalal in Qatar, Al Khor in Qatar. In many areas, as I said, you can take Abu Dhabi or desert area where sand soil is there, or in some cases clay soil is there. If you take example of Iraq, Baghdad, clay soil. If you take case of our country, you will find in plain areas sandy soil or clay soil in south, and you may find rock also in certain parts of cities. So everywhere you cannot uniformly consider time coefficients. This would differ. And in some cases, your estimates, your cost effect would be negative because estimator was not informed properly about nature of soil. And it is a fault of whose fault it is? It is fault of engineer if this item was not considered. But even if considered, planning guy has to consider this point. Same way, dewatering is an important activity in soils which allows water porosity, soil porosity, and also where permeability of water can happen. In granular soils, if water table is high, there is a chance that permeability works. While in clay soils, if there is no chance and water exists, then water shall be exposed when excavation is done, and for that purpose water has to be drained out before excavation is done. So this point is also worth considering. First of all, we have to take water existence point into our designs, because even if work is done, water shall exist there. And our soil report should inform us accordingly. Similarly, there are many other points. You may say that in certain areas running services exist below soil, or in some areas there are other issues that some structures exist or some other buildings exist which come in way of your work, which come in way of your plot, which relate to law and policy. So we have to keep all these points into our consideration, and we have to deal accordingly, and which affect your plan. That is important point. Why should my plan affect that? My point is that why it should affect. If I know all these points, I consider all these points, then plans should tell everything. These important activities must be taken into plan. This must be included in design plan, and this must also be included in project construction plan. Designer has to realize this point, because if this point is not realized based on survey information, or we can say geotechnical survey or geographical survey, whatever technique we have, this survey should inform designer that there are such issues, and if these issues are ignored, this will cause problem in future. So reference should be to soil report, to geotechnical report, survey report. All these must be considered. If you ignore them, means your plan, of course you shall provide design, I cannot say no. But that point, if mist will accumulate to site and construction people won't consider that. They would consider only when this point it appears on site. This point appears on site, only then they would consider. And of course, as I said, whatever operations are involved from commencement of job to completion of job, those operations are very significant. You cannot list all these operations, but measures, for example, we say block work. We take block walls activity in say one bar for 1 story or 2 story. But you don't take into consideration availability of blocks, or you can say how these blocks are manufactured and delivered. That point is ignored. Though it is useful practice, we don't consider that. But that point should be kept in view. That should be kept in view because it affects your site. You may raise question how you are saying that. I still remember one tender I was working on, building tender, housing tender. It was for Abu Dhabi, big one. And specifications we have to study when we do tender work, bid work. There was one project manager, proposed project manager for that project. He's an architect. I discussed with him, I was coordinator of that bid. I discussed with him, this is a point here not suitable. The 28 days are written here for block work production. And only after that it can be delivered. But tell me which factory will keep that block for 28 days? No factory will keep. They will practice of block factories, just they wait for 3 or 4 days and they deliver it. Because they don't have space to keep them. And we know that not thousands, lakhs of blocks are used on buildings. I discussed with him, this is a wrong condition, this is wrong specification. He said, no, this is concrete specification, you know very well. I said, okay, this is concrete specification, but this is not working. It's not workable. If you keep your block supplied by factory, say for 3 weeks or 4 weeks, what shall happen to your site? What shall happen to circulation on site? Well, he didn't agree. I made a query on that. I made a query for that engineer who was responsible for the specification in government. I raised a question that if I test block, contract a test block after say 4 days, 5 days, 7 days, and if block gets required strength, which is 7 Newton or 9 Newton, why should we keep them more on site for 20 days or 25 days? We would test it and use it. Clarify, can we do that? Well, that person who dealt this question maybe was an engineer and he cleared that query. Okay, no problem, you test and do that. That kind of vision is required. I'm not saying I did wonders, but why should I unnecessarily crowd my site when it can be resolved? Why should I crowd? You see, there are some items which you have to understand. A specification is written by engineers, that is true. But it is also true that every engineer is not experienced one. And because of computer world, copy paste is very rapidly done. And once you do that, you even forget what you did. When hundreds of documents are to be edited, and you work for same thing many days, you are so bored that you don't revise it, you don't edit that. To whomever you give for revision or proof checking, that person will handle in a similar way. So what I say at very initial stage, we have to be careful, we have to be smart, and we have to understand what problem we have to face. So that is what leadership works for. Leadership is not that I have this position and I am a leader. Position is not leadership. It is capacity of your working that is leadership. What do you think? What problem you solve? How do you solve it? Can you solve it or can you create more problem? If you can create more problem, then you are not a leader. You have no vision. Vision is that you have to solve problem much before than this happens. Like we say in safety, risk assessment, risk factors we have to understand. So here is no such risk, but it is risk to delay. This risk can delay job. So why should we worry about that? Why not? Tell me. Should we ignore it or we should accept it? There is nothing wrong in raising the question in technical world, because technical itself is a development world. If something is missed, we can fill in. That is required. As somebody raised a question on some engineering forum, I think SAFE, Structural Engineering Forum of India, regarding curing. Question was, of course, unexpected but had weight, and it is done. It was that why should we keep cubes in water when site is not kept in water, immersed in water? Question is right. Why should we keep? What is meaning of that test if it is not done according to requirements of site? Why should we run away from facts? Maybe question is done by whoever, but there is a thought behind that, contemplation behind that, and that is what engineering requires. Engineering requires use of mind, application of mind, and when you use mind, an engineer cannot work without using mind. If that engineer just refers to previous history, previous records, and does not take into consideration current time technology, that engineer is only a follower. That engineer can never be leader. And I am talking about leadership and engineering. We have to search, we have to find whatever development has been done in engineering, that has been done because of leadership, because of thoughts. My thought can be wrong. What's wrong to analyze that? We should have courage to speak, courage to do something. It doesn't matter what's written in code. Those who wrote code, they are also not gods, but they can't think. How many persons write code in our country are professionally qualified and experienced? They are not. You can count them on reference book. How many persons were involved in that code and how many are really involved in that field. So you can say it is you to decide. You must have courage to speak, courage to survey, courage to investigate. Can it be done this way? What's wrong? After all, you are not stealing anything. You are not robbing anything. You are just thinking how to save time, how to make something different, or we can say how to add quality to your work. When you add quality to some other's works, why not to your work? If you create same conditions on site and for cube samples, try them. What's wrong? And of course, it's in parallel. Don't get into, arguments of non-compliance, but comply with that. In addition, you can move like this. So we say that there are so many issues that we can discuss, we can find, and really it is surprising. It's good that we can understand these points. Operations in engineering, it depends on you. How do you define yourself? Purpose of operations and listing is that you should cover each and every work into that schedule or bar chart, and of course in various level of bar charts. In level 1, You cannot include everything. You have to include gross, you can say, project into that, date of start and date of completion, and these are major activities to be done. If there are many buildings should be there, and then for every building there should be a separate chart that may be called label 2, label 3, or whatever you can say, and then further details must be given. Then there will be charts for manpower or workforce, then there should be chart for equipment use. Those points must be taken value of and must be included accordingly. And if you do that, I think it's great help to yourself, that those charts shall support you in calculating progress, and of course in projecting S curve. Both S curves means planned curve, and of course whatever progress has been made, that curve, whether you are lagging ahead or you can say lagging behind, you are ahead of planned requirement or you are behind of planned requirement, you can find using that curve of achievement whether it is good one or bad one, or you have to apply some recovery plan that must be taken care of. Sometimes we forget these. We do not care for this, but we have to care for that because it's important. You have to reach on a project to a level as a leader of designs and leader of supervision, because design and supervising are related. You are leaders in supervision and they are leaders in design. They have coordination links. Ultimately, you have to report to designers and employers for whatever work you have approved and you have done. What I understand, that designers are also involved, not directly but indirectly, because designers have fixed your specifications and also all documents. So they are on responsibility of smooth prosecution of job, and it is up to all levels of work, up to you can say project handover or you can say project commissioning. Your work should be completed by yourself. It should have complete input of requirement, and all activities from beginning till end should be well planned, well allowed by time, not blind time, open eyes time. Open eyes time means time is fixed by someone and you have to allow your own input, you have to fix in yourself, and that would expose your requirements. How many workers do you need, how many hours of equipment you use, and of course then when do you require different materials, locally produced or imported one, and then you can say this is my resource table need for this project, for this projection of S curve, and you have to section in your time, mobilization time, demobilization time, or you can say commissioning time, and whatever net time you have for that work of planning and working is this one, and in this period you have to achieve average percentage per month, though it's not going to work, but it gives an indication that average percentage, or you can say growth percentage, first month to last month of your working time, this shall be our projected percentage, and we have to achieve this if we want to work on this. And based on that percentage you have to do cost planning, cost analysis, that after lapse of 1 month we shall get this much billing or valuation, and likewise second month, third month, fourth month, if everything goes fine, this much money shall come and this expenses shall happen during this period. So you can balance your cost budget, but that is also very difficult because nothing is certain. There is no certainty of progress, and there is no certainty of manufacturing to whom you your material requirement. But a direction is of course indicated what's going to happen, and if you require recovery program of lost period, you can find that input from there. And these all activities from commencement to end, of course thousands of documents are created which are well done, which are well coordinated and can help both parties, employer and contractor. Clearly history of no history of job. Of course in many files you can say technical documents, technical queries, engineering documents, engineering queries, and everything is written. You cannot leave it to just say, oh, I told you to do this. You cannot say that because it's a recordable question, it's a recordable issue, payment is made, and contract exists. So you have to avoid disputes also, and disputes avoided or can be avoided only when you are very strong on contracts. You have to answer whatever work you do. That is very well important. And all these documents that come in way of progress one time becomes very important. We have to understand this fact. If we don't understand this fact, we suffer. I will take up this issue later on also because this is very important issue and we cannot leave it like that. We should not leave it like that. I understand that project execution, project implementation is very difficult in these days, though technology is advanced and facilities are available, but facts are also there. You cannot imagine that something will be done automatically. Nobody can imagine that. It's not software that will work for you. You have to work on site. Of course you can use software on site also, it doesn't matter, but work is to be done by resources only, by your attention, by your involvement, intensive involvement. What can be done, otherwise you cannot do it. That is also true. So our talk was confined to these positions, these requirements, and I take pleasure in inviting you to raise questions. If you wish, you can write to this email suraj_engineer@yahoo.co.uk, and you can write to me, mail, and I'll be pleased if your question is right, if your question is worth, and if you have interest in this, I should not mind help you in your problems. But it is possible only when you view these videos, because these are not commercial videos, these are not entertainment videos, these are videos which are very boring, and if you do not spend some time on this, then you cannot get any benefit of them. You should realize my problems, that how many hours I sit together to create something, but if somebody does not take benefit of that, I don't mind that, but because my work only I can do, I can apply my time, I can use my time for better applications of work if somebody reads them. And if you are not happy with that, that's up to you. My job I'm doing, I'm trying to share my experience. Only purpose is that my experience should be used by people and it should not be thrown away, because if I keep in my mind all this, I may not be of any help, I may not be able to do anything. But every experience should be shared by others. That is only important point. Now I will leave it to you for time being, and because it's, of course I could not continue for 3 hours due to some reason of electricity problem, and others. So I now take this point to close this.